Hey guys, what's going on? JMac14 here, bringing you another jVlog. Alright, this episode is going to tackle a couple of things. I'm mainly going to be talking about Metal, what it is and why it's important to the Mac operating system. We'll have to talk about graphic APIs a little bit, kind of understand it, and then my ideas, what I see for the upcoming future of Mac gaming, as it will. Alright, so I've done some research on this, found a really good article that kind of talks about this on the Inside Mac Gaming forums, because I was kind of looking at certain things, because, you know, we still have this kind of old stereotype that Macs aren't made for gaming, and I think that's mainly because Apple chooses to focus more on ease of use and having the technology not be as scary to basic users. So they kind of go for more of a, let's make this a little bit easier, just click these kind of buttons and get everything done, which is something I actually like. That's why I have a Mac. I like the ease of use of it. I like how they have all their operating systems working together and transition back and forth. Absolutely love it. But what ends up happening sometimes with, you know, the way they have their hardware, or sometimes how they have some of their software is, sometimes it makes it a little bit difficult for people to, you know, develop stuff for it. Especially for gaming. So I kind of looked into this and found out a whole bunch of stuff about graphical APIs and stuff, because still kind of ticked off that Blizzard's not making Overwatch for the Mac and stuff. So, but if you don't know what Metal is a graphic API. It's something that Apple actually announced last year, 2015, at WWDC. And as I'm recording this, WWDC just happened. I actually just finished watching it for 2016. And so Metal's been out for a full solid year right now, and it's something that is included automatically in the Mac operating system. Okay, so you're probably wondering, probably saying to yourself, I don't know what graphics API are, I don't know what you're talking about, JMac, what the hell are you talking about? Basically, to put it simply, graphic API it's a system that allows like a game or some other kind of program to talk to your computer hardware. Basically, that's the simplest way I can put it. So if you think about it, if the API is really efficient, you get better performance out of it, which helps out with things like rendering times and frame rate and stuff like that. So not only do games use API, but other applications as well. So things like, if you're doing recording or doing video editing like iMovie or Final Cut, that has to use very efficient APIs for that. If you're doing motion graphics with Motion that Apple has, or maybe you're doing After Effects, or maybe you're doing graphics with Illustrator, or, you know, different things like that. Maybe you're using AutoCAD, you know, using something from Autodesk or something like that. All that stuff uses an API, okay? And so for the most part out there in the tech world, there's two major ones, but there's kind of four of them hanging out there. The major two ones are DirectX and OpenGL, okay? Now, we're not going to talk a lot about DirectX, because DirectX is locked down just for Microsoft, okay? It's used for Microsoft, for the Windows operating system, it's used for Xbox, and that's all it's used for. We're going to mainly be talking about OpenGL and Metal and things like that. OpenGL runs based on everything. It works for Windows and Mac, Linux, PlayStation, Xbox, it works on everything, okay? And Apple has supported OpenGL for a long time. It's been the only API that they've used for a number of years. Okay. Now, the thing about OpenGL is that, and if we're also talking about it too, DirectX, is that sometimes when people talk about APIs and talk about gaming and stuff like that, and they're saying, well, Apple doesn't work very well with OpenGL, it's not because it's really OpenGL. It's because of another feature, which this is another reason why we'll talk a little about later. But so we've got those two, and now Apple has Metal. Metal's been out for a year, and it's another API, but this has actually been developed by Apple, and they first had it come out for iOS, for like the iPhone and the iPad, so that way developers could use that. The basic function of Metal is that it allows the developer, when they're making a game, to be to use the GPU a lot more efficiently. They can bypass stuff like OpenGL and things like that and work directly with the GPU, so that way you get faster stuff without having to use this whole bunch of computing time and stuff on it, basically. Which is nice. When it was announced last year that they were going to bring Metal not only on iOS but now it's going to be on OS, which right now, because of the conference that happened, it's now called Mac OS. It's not OS X anymore. There are a lot of major developers that said at the conference that they're going to support Metal. So Epic says they're going to support Metal. Blizzard actually said they were going to support Metal, and a bunch of other companies said that too. Adobe said they were going to. Autodesk, a lot of people said this looks pretty good, because when somebody like Adobe, perhaps they got their Apple gave them Metal, and then what they did was they fixed it so that way After Effects would run on it, and they found that they were getting a lot better rendering times off of it. Then they went and they did it with Illustrator and found out they could do things in Illustrator that they couldn't do before because of Metal. So this opened up this great amount of possibilities for all these different applications to use Metal to be more efficient on the Mac. Okay. So with that being said, you know, for the most part, we've mainly used OpenGL. Okay, it's universal and stuff, but the thing about it is, there's a couple of things. One, I told you before that some people say that there's a problem with OpenGL and Mac and stuff like that, but that's mainly when somebody converts something over to Windows. What usually typically happens with that is they made it in DirectX. It's for Windows, and now they're going to port it over to the Mac. Well, the Mac uses OpenGL, so they have to go from DirectX into OpenGL, and that's when you get a loss of almost 50%. 50%, guys, from going using DirectX first and then porting it over into OpenGL later. You get a 50% performance loss. That is crazy. Alright, but if you develop it in OpenGL natively directly without having to do it, then you're alright, because OpenGL can work for Windows and everything. So if you just go, hey, I want it to be on everything, you just use OpenGL. It works on Windows, it works on Xbox, PlayStation, Mac, it works on everything, and you get better performance. Now, one thing that I will be honest with you about as a Mac user, okay, I don't know why Apple does not really update OpenGL on the operating system. They're still using 4.1 on it, which is the same one they used for Mavericks a couple operating systems ago, and we're on, you know, Yosemite does an El Capitan, still use the one that's out now, still does it too. And I think like 4.5 is out, the most recent one. So I don't know why it takes them so long to update stuff. We're basically, as Mac users right now with this new operating system, we're using an OpenGL version that came out and was finalized back in 2010. And it's 2016, so there's some weird stuff going on in there. But I want to mainly talk about Metal because of its possibilities, and because of all these companies that said they want to support it. So like I've already said, you know, Adobe saw it and they said they want to support it. Blizzard said they were going to support it. Actually, Blizzard says they were going to support it, and the first game that was going to use it was going to be World of Warcraft, and then they were going to put it in StarCraft 2 and Heroes of the Storm. And this is when I saw this, I was like, wait a minute. They said that when Overwatch came out, they didn't make it for the Mac because they didn't have all the technological, you know, support or whatever that they needed to make it go on the Mac. And I'm scratching my head and I'm wondering, do they mean hardware or do they mean like software? Because the thing about Blizzard, guys, is they make their own. They have their own engines. Okay, they don't rely on like OpenGL and stuff. They just make their own APIs. Okay, but the cool thing about Metal is you can have your own dedicated API and put it on top of Metal and it'll work perfectly fine and still be just as efficient. And so Blizzard said, hey, we're going to, you know, have it with Warcraft, have it with StarCraft, have it with Heroes of the Storm. That's great. You know, I like to see it with Diablo as well. But if the problem is that it's the API, then Metal should have fixed that. So I'm still confused about why we still don't have Overwatch on the Mac. But I'll get to that about, you know, other stuff in the future of Mac stuff a little bit later. But of course, Epic said they were going to support it. They actually were on stage and they actually showed a demo of one of the games they were making that ran on Metal, which is called Fortnite, and also Unreal Tournament is coming to Mac and it's going to be on Metal as well, because they already support it on iOS, so they were going to support it on the Mac version as well. Unity, they already support Metal on iOS, so it's going to be easy for them to switch over to the Mac. They said that they've got stuff coming on there. And then there's a bunch of other companies that said that they're going to support Metal, but they don't have really a time frame about, you know, when something's going to come on. So we got Foundry, Campo Santo, who made Firewatch, which when it came out, it actually is running on OpenGL, I think, but they haven't come out with a Metal release yet. 2K Games, they're going to do it. Autodesk, Feral, and of course Adobe said they're going to bring it to all of their creative applications in the cloud, but all those don't have the timeline on them. But the reason why I was looking all this up, guys, is because I was thinking about the future of Mac and gaming and stuff like that, and this is a big thing for us. We have to have really good, capable, efficient APIs to be able to run these high-end applications and also these games here. But another thing that we need too is we need a little bit of a hardware change. Okay, now I will stand here and I will pledge allegiance to the Apple flag all day long because I have drank the Kool-Aid. I am part of the cult. I will defend them to the end. But because I love them so much, I also feel like I can criticize them a little bit more than somebody on the outside a little bit too. Okay, I absolutely love the Apple hardware, but there needs to be some changes made. Okay, now, and this is what most people talk about when they talk about Mac and gaming, because most Macs don't have dedicated graphic cards. Okay, most of them are using integrated cards. Right now, from most of the Mac lineup, being an integrated card is perfectly fine, because you're not going to game on a MacBook and you're not going to game on a MacBook Air. That's used for just everyday use and stuff like that. Okay, but I will say this, when it comes to something like a MacBook Pro and it's supposed to be a professional grade notebook computer, I feel that that professional grade notebook computer should have a dedicated graphic card in it. Now the high-end 15-inch does. It actually has two graphic cards. It has an integrated and it has a dedicated. It switches between them, which is incredible, but it also makes it incredibly expensive. Okay, but if you're going to have a notebook and you're going to have it with a pro name on the end of it and say this is our professional grade notebook computer, it needs to have a dedicated card in it. So what I was thinking as the future of Mac, what they should do is they can leave the Air and the MacBook alone and have it with their integrated graphics. Even the base model 13-inch Pro that still has a disk drive in it, if you guys know what I'm talking about, that can still have integrated graphics in it because they haven't updated that thing since 2012, so that can just stay like that. But then when you get into the Pro series, that's when you should put some integrated graphics in there, not just for gaming, but because it's a professional grade notebook computer, it should have a dedicated card in there to be able to use the graphic APIs efficiently, so that way when you want to do things like Illustrator and Photoshop and AutoCAD and stuff like that, it can run at an extremely high rate. Okay, so my idea would be 13-inch Pros. There's 3 different models. You don't have to put super fast ones in there. Okay, like the base model one, just put a 1 gig one in there, just a dedicated 1 gig card in there. Then in the next one you can do like a 2 gig one, and the next two, the last 2 of them, you can put 2 gigs in there, so that way you can have some kind of step up to it, because there's got to be something in there besides the amount of storage and the processing speed to make it viable to go up in price in it. And then when you get to the 15-inch, leave the high-end 15-inch the way it is with its 2 graphic cards. It's perfect the way it is. The other one should have just a regular, just a 2 gig card in it. It's a 15-inch high-end, it's a high-end kind of machine there. It's like a desktop on steroids almost in a way. Give it just a 2 gig card, and that's your notebook line. Okay. Now, the way that I game and I do stuff, I do everything on desktop. I love the notebook computers, and when most people think about Apple computers, they mostly think about the notebook. But I'm a desktop person. I like to sit at a desk with a keyboard and a mouse and a big monitor and everything. I like that. Okay. don't get me wrong, I love to have a laptop too. It'd be easy for me to carry around and travel and stuff like that. But if I'm doing serious work, like if I'm doing graphics, if I'm doing editing, I want to sit at a desk with a keyboard and mouse when I do it. I don't want to do it on a laptop trying to balance or whatever like that. So with Apple's desktop line, the 27-inch, they've already got it. You don't have to do anything to the 27-inch because all the 27-inch iMac models have dedicated 2 gig graphic cards. Every single one of them, all 3 models do. Okay, so they've already got the capability to do it. Okay, the other 3 models of the iMac though, this is what they need to do. The base model one, they can leave alone. Okay, because that model is focused toward basic users. Okay, that's for somebody who is just going to go online and they're just going to check email and do shopping and pay bills and want to do some documents and basic stuff like that, communicate with the family. You don't need a dedicated graphic card to do that. You can leave the one that's in there you can leave that one in there and then, you'll be fine. Okay? The mid-model one, I believe, should get some kind of dedicated card. Put at least a 1 gig in it. Okay? But the thing that kind of confused me the most is that what Apple did, if you guys don't know, what Apple did is they have, the first thing they did was they came out with 5K displays on the iMac, and it was only for a 27-inch, so that thing can do 5K, alright? And so they already have dedicated cards at 2 gigs on them, alright. Then they came out later on, now on the 21.5-inch, when the high-end one, it's a 4K display, which is pretty sweet, okay? I used to work, with them. I still saw them every day. I used to show people, and they were just blown away that this little machine could do 4K. All right, and it was cheaper than a 4K television, and it's a computer. So, but the thing about it is that 4K iMac, guys, which still confuses me to this day, has integrated graphics in it. I don't know how it supports 4K with those integrated graphics in there. Apple did some kind of black magic to get it to work, but I personally think, hey, if you're going to have a 4K display and it's going to push out 4K in it, I should have a 2 gig dedicated graphic card in this one. So that's what I would do. I would have a 1 gig dedicated one in the mid-model one, and then a 2 gig one in the high-end model one, and then that's it. So basically what we're talking about here is changing 4 notebooks and changing 2 desktops over, and just putting integrated graphics in them, because that's what a lot of people see is the issue with Mac. Even though I don't think that's the main issue, I think it's more of a how many people have a Mac, is it viable, the coding, the API and stuff like that. But if they're really serious about hardware and stuff like that, that's what they should do. Now I think maybe Apple may be leaning toward doing something like that with the hardware later on this year, because of some comments that happened, I think it was earlier this year, when it came to VR, and could we see VR on a Mac? And there was somebody, I don't remember who, that said that we can do VR on a Mac once Mac makes a good computer, which infuriated the whole entire Mac community, and it infuriated Apple to a point to where, like, what are you talking about, make a good computer and we'll be able to run it? What the hell are you talking about? We already have good computers. You see all the shit that we can do on here? I mean, I can make freaking Pixar videos on this damn thing, but you see I can't do VR? So I think it's mainly a hardware challenge that this guy who said this comment was toward Apple. So I think maybe if they do something with the graphic cards and make them where they're dedicated and they're higher end and stuff, maybe then people will start taking the machines a little bit more serious. That's what I think is happening. We have really good hardware, but when people look at it compared to a PC, they don't take it serious for some damn reason. Okay? Just because they're like, oh, this Windows machine has 2 graphic cards in it, and they're blah blah blah, and they're this and that, and like, oh, but you have just integrated graphics in yours, we're not going to talk about it. I was like, yeah, but the way that our system runs is a little bit more efficient than your operating system, and all this ins and outs stuff that you're not even thinking about. You're just looking at 2 pieces of hardware side by side, and you're not even talking about the software or APIs or anything like that between them. So, but that's what I see, hopefully, for the future of Mac gaming, that the APIs, that more people will start going towards Metal, so that way you can run games more efficiently on a Mac, and hopefully Apple will turn around and put stronger graphic cards in them, because that's not only going to be good just for Mac gaming, that's just going to be good for professionals in general. So if you do music production, if you do video editing, if you do motion graphics, if you do any kind of thing creative, even if you do like 3D modeling and you do AutoCAD and stuff like that, having that application on a really efficient API within high-end hardware is just going to make your job and your experience a lot better. Okay, so that's it for me, guys. I've rambled long enough. Gotta get some water now. Mouth's getting kind of dry, so I'll just leave you with that thought. So thanks for watching the vlog. I appreciate it. Please remember to like the video, share it. If there's anything you want to say about the future of Mac gaming and APIs or anything like that, please feel free to comment below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I would appreciate it if you just hit that subscribe button there. I don't make any money off of it. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. You get to be kept up with all the videos and everything that I'm doing here. And I'm also on Twitter, so if you follow me over on Twitter, you can follow all the stuff that I'm doing over there too. And I will see you guys back here on the channel for another video. I hope you all have a good day. And remember, as always, keep gaming.